So, shall I go ahead? RBI's organizational structure. So first, RBI, and when we talk about organizational structure, the most important thing is what is the corporate structure. So section 3(2) of the Reserve Bank of India Act very clearly says that RBI is a body corporate operating by the name Reserve Bank of India, having a perpetual succession and a common seal, and it shall be sued and shall sue and be sued by the name. So it's just like any other corporate body. So it will have the name of Reserve Bank of India. So it has got a perpetual succession, and it can file cases, and it can be subject to a litigation in the name. Then the other important aspect of this corporate structure is it's a wholly owned organization. It is an organization with a capital of 5 crores under section 4 of the Reserve Bank of India Act, and it is wholly owned by central government. The entire capital is subscribed to by central government. Then what is the management of this corporate body? First chain of management. Section 7 of the Reserve Bank of India Act says that the first tier of management is central government may give directions to Reserve Bank of India in public interest after consulting governor. So the first line, this was what was the controversy that was there, where central government was thinking of issuing directions to Reserve Bank of India under section 7(1). So till date, there has been no instance where central government had to issue directions physically under section 7(1). So then that is the first. The power is there with central government to give directions. Then subject to these directions which are given by the central government, the general superintendents and direction of affairs and business entrusted to Reserve Bank of India will be handled by the central board, and they will exercise all powers exercised by the Reserve Bank and do all acts and things done by the Reserve Bank of India. So the second tier after central government's direction is the central board, and except as who should be doing what? The central board will come out with regulations which are called as central board regulations. So except as provided by central board regulations, the governor, and in his absence, the deputy governor shall have the powers of central general superintendents, direction of affairs of the business of the bank, and they may exercise all powers exercised by the bank and do all things and acts that are done by the bank. So the tiers of management control are first central government directions, then subject to central government directions by the central board of directors, then subject to central board's regulations by the governor, and in his absence by the deputy governor. So what is the composition of the central board of Reserve Bank of India? Section 8 of the Reserve Bank of India Act talks about what is the composition of central board. So our central board consists of 21 members chaired by the governor. The governor has a vote, and he also has a casting vote in case there is a tie. Then not more than 4 deputy governors. So basically these deputy governors can attend the meeting, but they cannot vote. And the only instance where a deputy governor can vote is when the governor is not there. And the governor specifically authorizes the deputy governor to act on his behalf in that particular central board meeting. So the governor and deputy governors are appointed by central government. So general trend is there will be 2 persons who will be from the Reserve Bank of India. Then 2 persons will be, one from the banking sector and an economist who will be there. But now we have 3 persons who are from the Reserve Bank of India and 1 person from the banking sector, Mr. Jain. So all these are appointed by central government. Then there are 4 directors, 1 from each of the local boards. So under section 9 of the Reserve Bank of India Act, there are 4 local boards operating in northern, southern, eastern and western region. So from each of these local boards, 1 person will be nominated by the central government into the central board. Then apart from this, 10 directors will be nominated by central government. So these 10 directors and the 4 directors of the central board have their vote. Then apart from this, there are 2 government officials who are nominated by central government. These people cannot vote. They are like the deputy governors only. They cannot vote, they can attend the meeting. Generally, it is the Secretary, Ministry of Finance and the Secretary, Department of Banking Affairs who will be there in this as these nominated officials. Then the governor and deputy governor shall devote their whole time. So governor and DGs are whole-time members. Their salaries and allowances are determined by the central board and with the approval of the central government. The general term of the governor and deputy governor is not more than 5 years and they are eligible for reappointment. But the general trend has been to appoint them for 3 years and give them an extension. There is no age limit in terms of what age maximum a governor or deputy governor has to be. But for deputy governor, generally around 60 to 65 is the last that you have, and same is the case with governor. 65 is generally the cutoff kind of a thing. Then for directors, the tenure is 4 years till the successor is appointed, and both are eligible for reappointment. And since these government officials are operating in the respective departments, they will be continuing till during the pleasure of the government. So the present constitution is this. Then local boards, we have a decentralized approach because India is a very big country. The Act contemplated that we will have local boards constituted for four areas specified in the first schedule. So basically the northern, southern, eastern, and western, with their centers located at Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and Chennai. Each local board can have a maximum of 5 members, and these members are appointed by central government. And from these, they will elect one to be the chairman. But it is not necessary that this person who is elected to be a chairman will be sitting in the central board. The person who could be sitting in the central board could be a different person as well. Then the term of the local board directors is local board members is 4 years, and they can be appointed. They can be continuing in the office till the successor is appointed, and they are also eligible for reappointment. Then the purpose of the local board is to represent the territorial and economic interests, and also the interests of cooperatives and indigenous banks. So, because different kinds of banking and non-banking institutions were operating in different territories, to get a sense of those territorial and economic interests and about those institutions which are operating there, local board had a very important role to play. Even today, it has a very important role to play. Apart from this, they have an advisory role on matters generally or specifically referred to it, and they can also be in the delegation of the central board. There are powers which are delegated to the local boards, and they will have to perform the duties as delegated to them by the central board. So this is the composition. So there are lot of vacancies in the local board which have not been filled for so many years. Same is the case with central board directors also. Then the disqualifications are there. I don't want to spend much of a time on this. The offices of Reserve Bank of India, the central office of Reserve Bank is now at Mumbai. So initially when it was set up in 1935, the central office was in Calcutta. It has offices at 4 places, which are Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, and New Delhi, and it has branches or agencies in several places in India. And where it can open office, RBI can decide. But if they want to have branches outside India, there has to be a previous sanction of the central government. So presently, you have 27 regional offices and 4 sub-offices spread across the whole country. Then the other important aspect is the hierarchy which is there in the organization. So at the top of the chain is governor. Then we have the deputy governors. Then you have executive directors, then chief general managers or regional directors if they are operating in the branch of or office of Reserve Bank of India. Then chief general managers, then general managers, DGMs, AGMs, managers, and assistant managers and clerical and support staffs. So these are the various classes of people who are working with Reserve Bank of India. And when we talk about organizational structure, one other important area that needs to be talked about is the relationship between RBI and government. So as far as the capital is concerned, it is fully owned by central government. Then management is concerned, central government has power to issue directions to Reserve Bank of India in consultation with governor, and they have a binding effect. Then the entire appointment, removal, term, etc. of central board directors and also local board directors, local board members is with the central government. Then where RBI is not complying with the directions, the central board the central government under section 30 has the power to supersede the central board and assign the function to any body or a person that it feels appropriate. However, when they're doing this, they will have to make a statement before the House of the Parliament at the earliest or within 3 months. Then the other power that central government has is to appoint auditors, then cause the audit to be done. Then central government also has the power under section 51 to entrust the audit function to the Controller and Auditor General, who is the principal auditor of the government, which is a constitutional authority. So the auditing power is with central government. Then every week, a weekly statement of affairs is supposed to be submitted by Reserve Bank to central government. And then every year, within 2 months of close of the year, an annual report along with the report of the Central Board of Directors on the economy and its functioning has to be furnished to central government. Then, if the government feels so, under section 57, the central government by an order can liquidate the Reserve Bank of India also. So it is not that Reserve Bank can be eternally there. If someone doesn't want Reserve Bank to be in existence, central government can simply issue an order liquidating the Reserve Bank of India. Then any regulation that is made by RBI, it has to be with the previous sanction of central government, and also it has to be laid before both houses of parliament. So the role of Reserve Bank and central government is that it is important that Central Reserve Bank should be independent, but still it is under the control of central government for various purposes, and the ideal way of operation is for Reserve Bank and the central government to operate in a coordinated manner and ensure that the economy and the country progresses. And that is how by and large it has happened. But the problem between Reserve Bank and central government will be generally because RBI is focused on inflation and government is focused on growth. And sometimes when you want to take up the high growth path, it will have implications of inflation, because of which the RBI will try to hold the strings and pull them down. So that's the relationship that is there. Then as far as the departments are concerned, you can just go through the About Us section of the Reserve Bank of India's website to see the greater detail what are the functions. But broadly, when we talk about the departments, we have a monetary policy department whose principal function is to formulate the monetary policy and also to provide the secretarial services for the monetary policy committee. Then the currency management function and the supervision over the issue departments, forecasting relating to coins, currency, etc. Then directions relating to currency chess, etc. All aspects relating to then what should be the features of the notes, then what should be the mechanism of disposal of notes, forged note related information and sharing. All these aspects are handled by the Department of Currency Management. Then the management of foreign exchange reserves, whether it has to be in gold, whether it has to be in foreign securities, which countries' securities, which countries' accounts, balances, etc. All this, for how long, etc. All these decisions relating to forex reserve management is handled by a department called the Department of External Investments and Operation. Then the public debt management of the states and the central government is handled by the Internal Debt Management Department. So it gives notifications whenever a new loan is floated. It decides the cutoff, it allots the loans, issue of loans, etc. And any switching of loans, etc., repayment, etc., will be handled by the Internal Debt Management Department. Then the important regulatory and supervisory departments that you have are first the Department of Payment and Settlement Systems, which is taking care of the regulation and supervision of the payment and settlement systems which are operating in the country. Then licensing of system participants, then giving directions to them, eligibility criteria for members to be operating in the systems, and all the retail and the wholesale segments of the payment systems are all regulated by the Department of Payment and Settlement Systems. For this, there is a board for payment and settlement systems also, and these are regulated under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act 2007. Then the entire financial intermediaries, banks, non-banking financial companies, cooperatives, then primary dealers, and NBFCs of all categories, all of them are regulated by a department called the Department of Regulation. So issuance of instructions, then levying penalties, etc. All those aspects are handled by the Department of Regulation. Then the Department of Supervision does the supervision function for all the entities that are regulated by Reserve Bank of India, where the supervision is in terms of on-site inspection, off-site monitoring through regulatory and supervisory returns, then seeing the audit reports and receiving audit exception reports, then market intelligence. So the entire supervision function is handled by the Department of Supervision. Then the financial market operations in relation to repo, reverse repo, all the tools that we have talked about, to operate them, you have the Financial Market Operations Department, and the various instruments that are there and the regulation relating to these instruments, and also in relation to the financial markets which are coming within the regulatory purview of RBI is handled by the Financial Markets Regulation Department. Then FEMA implementation, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act implementation, then authorized department dealers licensing, then issuing of directions relating to non-resident deposits, ECB, etc. is all handled by the Foreign Exchange Department. Then wherever there is any non-compliance that is there, an adjudication mechanism for that, and giving them an opportunity of being heard, examining whether there is a violation, etc., and then imposing a penalty. This function is handled by a department called the Enforcement Department. Then management of RBI's accounts, audit, operating the currency chest mechanism, and performing the role of banker to governments, state government as well as central government, is handled by a department called the Department of Government and Bank Accounts. Then conducting financial studies reports and coming out with periodic financial stability report is a very important function performed by a specialized department called the Financial Stability Unit. Then the developmental activities of Reserve Bank of India, one of the most important activity is the Consumer Education and Protection, which is handled by a department called Consumer Education and Protection Department. This handles the financial education initiatives of RBI, consumer protection initiatives in terms of directions relating to grievances, etc. Then administering the ombudsman scheme for banks, financial institutions, then NBFCs and digital payment. Now all of them are regulated under a single scheme called the Integrated Ombudsman Scheme. So all that is handled by the Consumer Education and Protection Department. Then initiatives for financial inclusion, MSME credit promotion, priority sector lending guidelines, then monitoring of that, all that is handled by a department called the Financial Inclusion and Development Department. Then very recently we created a new department called FinTech Department, which is dealing with the financial technological innovations that are happening in banking, financial system, payment and settlement systems, etc. Then we have an international department where RBI is a representative of several international bodies like ADB, BIS, BCBS, etc. So in all these, representing RBI and then interacting with the officials there and coming out with an official stance, etc., is the function of the international department. Then conducting the board meetings and facilitating the boards and the committees of the board is the responsibility of the Secretaries Department. Then just like organizations, RBI also has a corporate strategy and a budget and expenditures, making of staff payments, strategy. All these aspects are handled by a department called the Corporate Strategy and Budget Department. So whenever there is any public interaction of Reserve Bank of India through press communique, conference, maintenance of RBI website, then the interaction of governor with the press, etc., all this is handled by a department called as Department of Communication. Then the Reserve Bank publications, providing the data for Monetary Policy Committee and other information, preparing statistical models, etc. All these function relating to analysis and policy on the economic matters is handled by a Department of Economic Policy, Analysis and Policy. Then all the returns which are received relating to FEMA, relating to banks, etc., statistics that are generated, then reports and information management is handled by a department, specialized department called Department of Statistics and Information Management. Then the entire IT resources on which Reserve Bank of India and its systems work and computerization of operations is handled by a Department of Information Technology. Then just like we take up inspection of other offices, we have our own inspection department which conducts inspection of all the internal branches, offices, etc. of Reserve Bank of India. So that is handled by a department called the inspection department. Then staff matters, postings, transfers, etc. are all handled. Then pay perks, etc. are handled by the human resources management department. Then risk management department is very important because RBI's balance sheet is also subject to a lot of risks, and RBI is also exposed to operational risks because of the computer systems, then loans and advances that it gives, then foreign exchange risk that is exposed to. So how is the risk management in Reserve Bank of India and how the systems are supposed to be put in place is handled by the risk management department. Then legislation, regulation and litigation involving Reserve Bank of India or emanating from Reserve Bank of India is handled by the legal department. So our own staff and office premises are handled by the premises department. Then we have an obligation constitutional to be implementing the official language. For that purpose, we have a Rajbhasha department. Similarly, we have an obligation for prevention of corruption and for vigilance matters, we have a central vigilance cell. So these are all the departments of Reserve Bank of India. Then RBI has 6 subsidiaries where RBI makes capital contribution. The most important of them is Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, which is basically looking at the insurance for bank deposits. Then we have Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Private Limited, which prints the bank notes and supplies the notes to Reserve Bank of India for onward transmission to banks, currency chests, etc. Then there are certain new institutions which have come about, which is called as the RBI, which is Reserve Bank Information Technology, which is basically looking at the IT and cyber security needs of RBI. Not only RBI, what is the mechanism for ensuring cyber security in the banking industry, and also assisting in the audit and assessment of the regulated entities, because now the systems are very, very information technology intensive and ensuring security and safety is very, very important. Then for the education, financial education, all the financial regulators have come together and set up an organization called the National Center for Financial Education. So RBI also contributes capital and also participates in creating the information material for financial education. Then there is an organization called Indian Financial Technology and Allied Services, which is basically to enable IT-enabled services and systems to be designed, deployed within the Reserve Bank of India and within banks and financial institutions. So that mandate is there for this particular subsidiary. And the most recent subsidiary that has been set up by Reserve Bank of India is what is called as Reserve Bank of India Innovation Hub. So this is basically intended to promote and facilitate innovation in the financial sector. So the total amount of capital that we have in these institutions is of more than 2,000 crores. Then for the purpose of training, we have 3 training academies basically. One is Reserve Bank Academy, which is earlier it was called as the Bankers Training College, which is there in Mumbai. The second is College of Agricultural Banking, which is basically for training of cooperatives and for MSME related trainings, etc. This is located in Pune. Then for our own officers, we have a training college called the Reserve Bank Staff College, which is located in Chennai. Then we have participation in 3 training establishments. One is called Indira Gandhi Institute of Developmental Research, which is located in Delhi. Then we have Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology, which is located in Hyderabad. Then the third one is National Institute for Business Bank Management, which is located in Pune. So these are the training and research establishments of Reserve Bank of India. So this is broadly the organizational structure and the functions that are performed by Reserve Bank of India. So in case you need additional information, you can just refer to this particular site.